Ravi Shastri was made chairman of Runorder and we did some great discussions. Now I'm handing out titles. I've realized that's what works.
Oh,
so
okay.
what title would you like?
I just want to be part of the member.
You don't want any
panel.
title?
Huh?
No,
No title.
What about you? You're a man of titles. Director of Runorder. Does that sound good, Tom Moody, to you?
I'm happy to be passenger.
Passenger.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound very important. What do you think? I'll tell you who's not getting a title this year. Rajasthan Royals.
Oh,
And how
where
sad is that? Yeah, how sad. I mean, I would like to say sad because they were pre-tournament favourites for so many, including you, Tom. Mid-season tournament favourites for many, and they've messed this up. So Darshanan is here, Dustin is here. They will add salt to Rajasthan Royals' wounds to try and figure out how has this team managed to not make a playoff spot after the pole position they were in midway through the season. Tom, you have very pertinent points. You also do, but he has more pertinent points. Let's
so
start
as
with
passenger, you go first.
Yeah.
Okay. I think first and foremost, I feel that the critical time of their turning point of their tournament was coincided with three key players losing form. Sanju Samson, the captain, bless you, Joss Butler and Hetmeyer. Three players that were having an impact in the first part of the campaign, which gave them that dominance, which gave them that position at the top, all fell out of form at the same time, and therefore that was the beginning of their slide.
They were the only team who named the exact same combination whether they were batting first or bowling first. With the impact sub rule, every team has switched that. What Royals did was every time they batted first, they had just the 5 bowlers. They gave themselves 5 bowlers and said that we'll sub in a batter in the second innings. I mean, there was one game where they had 5 bowlers, Sandeep Sharma went for over 12, but they had no other 6th bowler. And then they had batting till number 9. This is a game against RCB. Jason Holder was unused at number 9. So it didn't seem to make sense. There was another game where they had both R. Ashwin and they subbed in one of their uncapped players, Abdul Basit, to bat ahead of Jason Holder. So they were making all these slightly confusing strategic
At the
decisions.
Obed McCoy.
Obed
one
McCoy
which
came
was,
in, bowled 1 over,
prominent one,
13
yeah.
runs, and then they give Kuldeep Yadav, the most inexperienced bowler, the 19th over against Sunrisers, and I mean, he went for around 20 runs in that over.
I think they do drill down deeply when it comes to their think tank and trying to be unique in that way, and that can at times implode. And I think that may have happened on a couple of occasions, just with certain deployment of bowlers or batters at certain times of the innings didn't seem to make sense to just the cricketing eye. It may have done through an analytical eye, but I think you need a balance of both.
Batting wise also, they did fail to defend 210 plus totals. I think one game they failed to defend 212, one game 214. Game versus Sunrisers I think is one of the most memorable games where it just seemed like they lost from a completely winning position. And similarly against Mumbai, I think, where suddenly at the death, Tim David just started hitting sixes for fun.
That is a game actually is a very important game where Yashasvi Jaiswal hit his peak. The next highest score in that game was Butler with 18.
Yes.
And when you have, what we've realized, if you have just one batter getting a big score and nobody else quite contributing, that score tends to get chased down. So more than going into tactics and everything, you just got to have good players in your side, or a good captain who's going to make the most of the team.
So you've
maybe
taken me to a nice place.
Yeah.
Is Samson a good captain?
There's a number of experts out there calling him as a very good captain and an evolving captain.
Yeah.
And just suddenly because they're losing, you don't suddenly become a bad captain. I think there's many pieces to captaincy, and there's a couple of examples of that in other teams as well, with regards to captain needs off-field support as well as obviously on-field support. So I don't think he's a bad captain. I think tactically they've got quite a few things wrong, whether that's happened under pressure on the field with his decision making, or whether that has been in conjunction with the think tank that's in the dugout.
Tactically, before the game begins, the playing 11, for example, there was an instance of a sub as well. Riyan Parra came in as a batting sub, and Dhruv Jurel was kept for later. So there are some decisions that I've still not got over. Selection of one particular batter over the years, which makes me wonder, who's making these calls, and that is why perhaps you have another season where Rajasthan Royals is struggling. So tactics before the game, not so much on the field.
Going into the auction, the impact player was not part of the conversation, and they specifically went for Jason Holder, knowing they needed a number 7 batter that can bowl. So
this would have been a good team in a non-impact player year almost.
yeah, I think that if anything sort of threw their initial ideas and plans into chaos, because really Holder's great value is someone that can contribute with a bat and bowl your 4 overs, but not ideally as a specialist death bowler. You know.
So they got the tournament sort of moved ahead with them when everyone else figured out
But they could have
maximum
still maybe
use of
worked
resources
around it.
and they couldn't.
Yeah.
They didn't trust Holder with the bat. That's the other thing. They had him batting
Yes.
behind.
And also with
Ashwin
McCoy
most
after
of
the
time.
season that he had last season, they should have given him more opportunities and maybe gone with the better, the better T20 bowler and have that extra batter as an impact sub.
With the impact sub, it allows you to really nail down on your specialist role. You know, whether it be a power hitter or whether it be a specialist new ball bowler or death bowler.
Yeah.
That's why I bring up the LSG game, because I think that was a perfect chance to play Adam Zampa on the black soil pitch. They played Holder, and then they didn't even need Holder's batting, and it was a low scoring game where somebody like Zampa could have had more of an impact.
I think they tried to be a bit too funky in terms of pushing Ashwin up, even despite having the likes of Devdutt Padikkal and Riyan Parag. Riyan Parag probably wanted them to be a finisher or a lower order batter. So pushing Ashwin up, not using a Jason Holder despite having it. So probably in trying to be a bit too fashionable in that sense.
I liked funky and fashionable. Very good. I was told though that the franchises were given a message that we will have the impact player rule at the time.
Okay. And maybe they,
But
along
no-
with many teams, though, not even just at the auction, even in the early parts of the IPL, couldn't get their heads around how to make that work in their favour. And I think some teams have done it well and
They
have adapted well, and some teams haven't still got
So
their head
maybe
around it.
we can maybe agree on one thing, that tactics off the field, the starting 11, impact subs, and maybe that wasn't handled too well. Batting order as well is something that's done off the field.
This is the least productive, I can't even call it worst because you don't feel like using worst, but is this like the worst stroke least productive season for Joss Butler?
It's just that not enough batters have come together and the seam bowling has been in disarray forever.
Well, and I think Butler's sort of decline in form coincided with Sampson and Hetmeyer, which was
And the thing about wanting
first
to bat
point.
first was a strange tactic again in T20 cricket. No matter what, they wanted to bat first. So that's another surprising call.
Very well, that is pretty much it. Would you entertain a job offer from the Royals if they asked you to sort of be a part?
What, not to be a passenger?
Not to be a passenger.
Maybe be a driver.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Time will tell indeed. Thank you very much. Tom Moody, Sudarshan and Dustin, Sanjay Manjrekar. This was ESPN Cricket for Runorder.